Par contre ça, je sais pas c'est quoi ce jeu. Je l'ai trouvé sur le PS Plus. Voilà. Anyway, commençons le jeu parce que ça fait depuis 1900 le truc il est sur ma Play, frère.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Ça, frère Stanley, je crois que tu connais pas le bonheur, frère. C'est quoi ça?
Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Franchement, Stanley, on va être honnête, toi et moi. On se connaît pas, mais frère, ça se voit, tu pues. C'est pour ça que personne n'est venu te voir. C'est...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Ça s'est fermé.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
C'est où la salle de réunion? Là? Est-ce qu'il n'y a pas, je sais pas, des trucs à faire? Ah, pour celui-ci, c'est ça. Ok. Est-ce que je peux courir? Je peux sauter? Non, je peux rien faire. Attends, non, je peux rien faire. Ok. Eh, frère, c'est les backrooms le bureau ou c'est comment?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Merde, left, c'est gauche, tout. Oh non, mais moi je vois même pas les sous-titres depuis tout à l'heure.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Est-ce qu'il y a écrit des petits trucs sur le tableau? Alors, objectif... ok... Brown closet. Ok. Attends. Je peux rien faire. Ok. Je vais me faire voir. Ok.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Tu le luxe. Tu. Il est dans le luxe, hein. Attends, t'es mal la différence entre cette salle et cette salle. Cette salle et cette salle. Cette salle et c'est bon, j'arrête. Salut Jacqueline. Ah, y a personne. D'accord.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
2, 8, 4, 5.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Merde, attends. Mince, attends.
But the
Alors,
combination was 2845.
Ok, il répète en fait, j'ai pas besoin de le noter. Oh, mais...
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
C'est tout noir.
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Aïe, wesh. Ça, vraiment, Stanley, prends juste des jours de congé, Habibi. Je pense que ça ira plus vite. Frère, le but c'est de s'échapper, non? Salam alaikum, c'est
Although
bon.
this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would, but of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for.
Choc bar, le mec il a sorti le mot mort. Non, wesh. Choc bar, pardon. Wesh. Mais wesh.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Mais on dirait trop la salle de... Purée, la meuf là, dans Les Mignons. La petite là. Je suis dans un autre délire, moi. Voilà.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Je suis vraiment trop bête, hein. C'est trop une dinguerie. Frère, j'ai même pas vu qu'il y avait une passerelle.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Oui, c'est trop sad. Je suis triste pour Stanley.
No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible?
Après, frérot, je voulais prendre l'échappatoire, mais t'as dit que je mourrais. Donc, je peux que l'accepter, hein, je vais dire.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Et comment je fais? Non. Je vais essayer de voir ici.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Je vais câbler. C'était juste ça qu'il fallait faire. Oh là là. Vas-y, frère. Merde.
Yes. He had won. He had
j'ai gagné.
defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Ça, je fais pas mytho. Désolé les collègues. Voilà. Franchement, je sais pas où vous êtes allés. J'espère pas dans le trou du cul du monde, mais voilà. Allez, au revoir.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his
Je crois que ça avait buggy.
The feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Frérot Stanley, je sais pas si t'habitais au Moyen-Âge, mais en tout cas, force à toi. vu l'environnement, je pense qu'à tout moment, il y aurait eu un dragon qui allait pull up dans le ciel. Mais bon, tranquille. Quoi? On est revenu? J'ai capté. En fait, c'est un jeu à multiples fins. Ce genre de truc, ça va me prendre 10 ans.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bref, le but c'est pas de savoir s'il y avait un tableau pas tout à l'heure.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ça, je vais prendre que des mauvais chemins. Juste pour voir si... Oh!
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Je peux voir? Et pourquoi il fait des bruits de clavier 1900 là? Wesh,
yes, really, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Fuck off.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Attends, quoi? Tu veux dire que je suis con en fait? C'est bon, j'ai capté. Ah, dommage. Je croyais que j'allais vraiment tomber. Hein.
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time.
Oh non, 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 non. Zut. Est-ce que je peux sauter?
Really?
Oh!
I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others?
Non, non, ta bouche, ta bouche.
Convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
Ah, ta bouche.
I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Oh, ma bite.
Perhaps you misunderstood.
Ah.
Stanley walked through the red.
Mais on va jouer à ça. On va jouer à ça. Wesh.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Stanley walked into the blue door.
You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me.
Finalement, s'il y avait pas de screamer.
Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
Pour le coup, vraiment, je veux pas prendre sa troisième option parce que... Ah, en vrai, ça me tente, hein. Ah non. Ah non. Si, non. Si, non. Si, non. Allez.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
En vrai, pour l'instant, ça va. Je vais mettre un 3.
Oh, of course. A 3. Really? Maybe
Quoi,
next time we
c'est
can
quoi
get
le
you to form
prochain?
an actual opinion, you know? Any level of critical thinking or engagement with your surroundings? Does that sound
Oui.
good? Think
Oui.
we can do that? Yes?
Non.
Wonderful. Here,
Attends,
based on the data
merde.
from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park.
Non, en vrai, j'ai été mauvaise
Let's
jeu.
take a look.
Ça méritait un 4. Ça, j'ai capté, je vais aller là, frère, c'est bon.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Putain. En fait, le mec, il veut juste que je mette 5. C'est bon, j'ai mis 5.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting.
Non.
You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it
Non,
up.
j'ai pas envie, mais wesh. J'ai pas
In
envie,
this
frère.
game, the player draws left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course,
Oui.
the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
4 heures. Ah, c'est ça, je vais le laisser pas les flammes. Eh ben non. Eh ben non. En fait, je m'en fous. Vas-y.
You heartless bastard. Because you hate babies or purely to spite me?
Non, c'est
If it's
faux.
the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm out. I'm done.
Non,
It's
Bibi,
over.
reviens.
Thank you for
Non.
playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here?
Non, Bibi, reviens.
Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Vas-y, envoie le jeu. Envoie le jeu, ma gueule. Ok, je vous explique mon plan. Je vais dans le truc là et
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley
à la
was
place
once
de
again
truc,
stunned to
à la
discover
place de
not an
d'aller
indication
dans
of
le...
any human life.
Zut.
What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking back. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Non. Ah, vas-y. J'ai pas le droit de speedrun le jeu, Crary. Au secours.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Bref.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Fuck off.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
T'es violente à quel point ça
The door
dépend en
behind
fait.
him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Non, y a pas de turn
At
around,
this point,
face down.
Stanley was making a
Pardon.
conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Et on dirait la route elle est sans fin. Ah ok, c'est bon. Je peux retourner ou pas? Enfin, au point où on en est. Et la arme, tu vas me dire que je me suis pas
As the machine
écrasé.
whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his
Écraser les
demise,
jambes.
he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story. Trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like
Je peux
plucking
pas
the
m'échapper.
eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned
Ah, si, j'ai
and
une
willingly
idée.
accepted this
Non, je peux
violent
pas.
end
Si.
to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Vas-y, frère. Oh.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Oh. Oh. Narratrice, merci.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Bon, moi, ce que je retiens, c'est
When
que
every path you can walk
le
has been
narrateur il a
created
voulu
for
buter
you long in
la
advance,
narratrice forcée.
death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ah. Oh, il joue au jeu. Purée, c'est les jeux de trucs là. De cartes que tu trouvais que sur Windows. Et celle-là, elle a sorti. Moi, je vais sortir, moi.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Désactiver, c'est bon, là.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Et dans tous les cas, en fait, si j'étais né ma play, bah, c'était la fin du truc. On n'est plus à ça près, écoute. Hein. Ça fait petit moi que je réveille, s'il te plaît. Please. Please. Gracias. Gracias. Il y a des limites. Je pense que je vais m'arrêter là. Et peut-être que je vais reprendre prochaine fois, écoute. Bref.